So we're back. This is probably going to be the final one for this. We populated the board and it works despite the fact that I ruined 3 of the traces going to one of the IC chips. So if you want to learn how I got over that, watch the previous video to this one. We did use sockets for the transistor. So the socket idea is a little part that you put in so then you can replace the transistors. You just pop them in and pop them out. And then you can like bend them over or solder them into the socket when you get the ones you really sure you're going to use. Now the thing was, the Tata, the people that I order my parts from, they did not have the BC549. And that's why I didn't have these. I had forgot to order them off eBay. It was like, oh, I got to get those separate. So I ordered some today. I got a whole bunch of them. I think I got 100 for $2.09 with no shipping. So this is a weird setup. It's got the LED comes off of the PCB, and then it's got a switching wire which turns the LED on and off, but it doesn't have anything to do with the bypass. So I really don't understand that. Again, I didn't have a real schematic BOM diagram instructions for this because it was a gift. And the guy who gifted it to me sent me the newer version of the PDF, which is different. It uses a 2PDT switch, 6 connectors on the switch, and this has 3 connectors on the switch, and I have the wrong switch. I have an on, off, on. Now, I don't know, do they make an on, SP? DT. I'm going to have to contact the company and ask him for a diagram for this. But even with the incorrect transistors, and is that even going to make a difference with this thing? I mean, it's such a nasty sounding dirt box. So this contraption here, the only purpose that this is serving is convenience of hookup, okay? Because when you're dealing with a guitar, it will be like, well, you've populated this, you've put the wiring on it, and then are you going to have to seriously build it all into the box to test it? You have it all hooked up in there, and then you plug it in and find out something's wrong in here. You put something in backwards, one of the capacitors, or there's a problem. So for the sake of, if you're going to have to troubleshoot it, you can hook it up just on the bench. Now the problem with hooking it up on the bench is it's kind of like, how do you do it? You twist the wires, you cut some guitar cables. Well, in this case, you make a Beavis box, and it's named after a guy, Beavis Audio, who has a site. I'm not sure if it's still up, but it teaches you about pedal basics. It's a great site, Beavis Audio. And this was one of his things that he had built, and people call it a Beavis box. I don't think he created it. But nevertheless, how it works is there's an input and an output, and those are run to these wires here that have alligator clips. So there's an input and an output wire that you connect to the wires on your PCB that represent in and out. And then there's powering. There's a positive and a negative battery. So what I like to do is use a tiny practice amp, a mini amp, and then this test tone generator, because if something in the old days before I had the test tone generator, I would say, hey honey, after you've been here all day testing resistors and handing them to me and listening to me complain, and I blame you for everything that goes wrong even though it's my fault, would you mind playing an A for me while this thing doesn't work for hours on end? And eventually she falls asleep with the guitar. She's drooling on it or something unsanitary, and and then I start throwing punches. So I built this, and this enables you to, oh, it works. So yeah, the power's coming out here. Got the red 9 volt, it's a 9 volt jack here. This little battery sits in here, and so then you hook up your ground, your positive, and then your in and your out wire. Now this PCB is weird. It's almost like it's, what's this purple wire here? Oh, that's the power ground, but it's getting, wait a minute. I'm screwing all kinds of stuff up here. Okay, I think they were, both of those were supposed to be plugged in there. And are we getting, yeah, look at that, we're getting light on our LED. This is weird because there's a switching wire, which would mean that this has a buffered bypass, but it's wired for true bypass. So I really, I'm gonna have to read the, I gotta get a hold of the guy. You know, like I said, we didn't have the right BC549 transistor, so I ordered those. It's running on 550s, which is very similar. So on a circuit like this, that's just a really ugly, nasty distortion. Is it going to make a difference, those transistors? You know, probably not. So there's volume, gain, treble, and bass. And how I know it's working is that you can hear it's really distorting. So here's our testing the volume. It just kind of, I think that's, oh, maybe that's the volume and this is the gain. Seems like these and then treble, and I think this is the bass. You do hear it a little bit. So once I get to the point where I know it's working, I will switch over to a slightly better amp. We live in an apartment here and I don't want to. It's usually late. Like now it's almost 10 p.m. and I don't want to be like oh boy. That's better. You can hear that like octavey thing. And it does that kind of fluty type of octave fuzz. It's, again, it's relative of and the other disadvantage behind bench testing like this is it's noisy. When you have it in a shielded, grounded enclosure, it's protected from interference. So just doing it this way, we have all this wire just out in the open, picking up a lot of interference. This is that? Yeah, this is that wire that goes that I have not figured out. And this is really embarrassing. I do a pedal how-to, like how I build a pedal, and I'm like, I don't know what that switching wire does. So yeah, that's what it sounds like. It's nasty. And part of it is the fact that it's not shielded. Where's the switch on this thing? Part of it is the fact that it's a dead battery. Part of it is just that circuit. Now, when it's boxed up, you won't have as much RFI, and you figure out how to set it right and everything. There'll be a lot less noise, but basically at this point, I'm done for now because I need to wait for eBay to ship me those transistors. So what I'll be doing is taking a little piece of tape, and I'm going to label every wire that needs labeling, so when the transistors come, I'm not going to be scratching my head or having to pull anything up. I can just go right ahead and put it together. I probably will put up the PDF to look at how he shows the wiring diagram, but I've used a purple wire for the power ground, orange and purple wire for the LED, which I've got to drill this out. He said it would be off by a couple of millimeters, and it's really off quite a bit, the switch. I'm going to have to drill high and then use a washer or fill it in. What I can do is put some tape on this and then fill it in with epoxy from the back. And it'll just look like a dot there. I mean, it's a gift. It's, you know, I got to try to make it, I don't just want to have a hole on there. And then what I'll do is run, this LED is going to come around and sit in a bezel. It'll be a different LED. It'll be a 5mm in a nice chrome bezel. And then everything else should just buckle right up, and it'll actually look fine. Just this switch is going to sit a little north of here. I got to drill an additional hole for that. And the person who gets it will love it because it's going to be quieter. It's not going to have all that hum. True bypass. So yeah, if you're building on Vero and you never bought a PCB, you can pull stuff off like this in one night. You know, we started this afternoon at around 4, and it's 9:30, 20 to 10 right now. So you see, it's 3 IC chips, quite a few parts. You see how much I burned that. The soldering iron got a little carried away when I was monkeying around. It is listed on the bill of materials to use 1/8 watt resistors, and that's why they're standing up and crooked. So that was my error. But as far as this one goes, it's in the bag. It does what it's supposed to do, which is a very, very nasty fuzz. The original is a sought after rare pedal that's called a Univox Super Fuzz. And I have built one of those here. Typically with those, people try to really obsess about the gain staging in it. It kind of starts lower and works its way up high. I think there are 6 transistors in that. Whereas this has 4 transistors and 3 dual stage op amps. So I would have to look at it and figure out what's going on. There is the bass and treble control, which is different because on the original it just has a tone control. And usually for each one of those stages, for each one of those filters, we have an additional gain stage. So that would explain why there's more, because you think 3 op amps times 2, because they're dual op amps, is 6, and then 4 transistors, that's 10. So we got 10 actives or amplifier gain stages inside the Boss FC2, whereas the original Super Fuzz has 6. So I'm guessing another 2 of these are buffer stages. Where did the original have buffers? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that. I will say that if you're going for this, you know, there's the Behringer you can get for 35 bucks. But you could also build one of these FZs, and you could just assume which one is more challenging. Well, Honestly, the Super Fuzz is a little bit more challenging because you gotta really get the gains. You gotta test each transistor for HFE, and it'll make a difference in how the circuit performs. You want the optimum signal to noise ratio, but you want the best, juiciest sounding, nasty, evil distortion. And for me, I read a lot on that when I was building my Super Fuzz, and I got some reliable information from someone I trusted, and what they said made sense to me. And it also, when I went through and tried all different combinations, different gain HFE transistors, that particular combination, that idea of starting off medium, working your way up high, and then going down a little bit, sounded the best to my ear. So I've got a really very well biased Univox Super Fuzz here. This is the clone of it, the Boss FZ2. So at some point I'll have to pit them up against each other. And usually what you find in those instances, they're so close. Now this, I don't want to say that because it's completely different. There's more stages in it. And I'm saying, oh, this thing will clean up a lot when we get it in the box. Well, that'll have to, you know, the proof is in the pudding when you get it put together. But hopefully this, I know this was an unbelievably long video, a series of videos. Hopefully this was helpful to some of you, and you may have been able to learn something. Don't look for me to be documenting my builds, because it takes a lot more time when you're filming this stuff. But I ordered stuff to build a Friedman BEOD and a Friedman Dirty Shirley. Now this is a combo pedal. You build both pedals into one enclosure, and they're very similar. There's a set and forget trimmer potentiometer on the board where you spin that. On one side it's the BEOD, on the other side of the turn it's the Dirty Shirley, which sounds really cool to me. It's the same company, pedalpcb.com, and I'm excited about that. I've also got a pair of Sputnik Effects, Spaceman Effects Sputnik 2 germanium fuzz pedals that I'll be building. It's called the Leica Fuzz, and that's made from dead end PCBs. So this is, it's going to be the biggest germanium builds of my life, and I'm building 2 of them. Now I've built a number of germanium builds in my life, including a perfectly biased charge pump fuzz face, and my favorite is the Baldwin Burns Buzz Around. But these, they've got ferrite coils. It's got a transformer in it, a decoupling input transformer. It's just a beast of a pedal. All kinds of exotic parts. Sourcing the parts for these Leicas, that's why they're so expensive, is because sourcing the parts took me a long time, it cost me a lot of money, and shipping and a lot of headache testing germanium transistors. So I'm going to be building those. We got to see how I feel about filming anything with that, but they're going to represent a personal high mark for me in building these pedals that go for $3,000 on the market. It's what a Sputnik 2 sold for not too long ago. It was either $2 or $3 grand. It was something like ridiculous amount of money like that. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go, and peace.